Unbeknownst to you, 3 hidden problems in your journey to success can sabotage or even destroy your dreams. In this episode, I'm going to address those 3 problems and I'm going to show you how to set the pace that will give your business the best chance and your life at optimal success. Let's do this.
Welcome to the Grit Podcast.
Welcome to the Grit Podcast, the podcast that motivates and encourages you to become the real man you're destined to be. Forecasting live in the rugged Northwest, just east of the trailblazing city of Portland. So let's get locked and loaded, because it's time to get gritty with it. Here's your host and lead grit man, Jamie Worley.
All right, well, we're currently in the 3rd episode of the series, Pacing Yourself for Success. In the first episode, we began talking about the 4 components of performance. LEAP, L-E.A.P. The L is leaning on your strengths. The E is educating yourself continually. And today we're going to be talking about the A in LEAP. Now, people run into one of 3 problems when trying to succeed in life and in business. And all 3 of these problems I'm going to talk about today can deteriorate your progress and even destroy your chances of success. The process of being successful in any area of life, it really is. It's a delicate one that most people don't know how to navigate, and so they end up failing. They don't understand the process. They simply believe it too complicated to sit down and just really map out and understand, so they just wing it and they go. They work really hard to succeed, but they're missing 2 necessary elements for great success. I'll cover those here shortly. So when the journey to success becomes a proverbial treadmill with little to no return, they either just accept that it will always be this way, or they cut their losses and they just quit. However, if they would just take the time to break down into bite-sized variables, things that are easily understood, they could intentionally move with purposeful direction at a healthy speed and accelerate at a healthy pace. Let's start by discussing those 3 problems that, well, if not addressed, can and most likely will sabotage or destroy your potential for optimal success. The first problem is this. The first problem is when you move too fast. What happens when you move too fast? Well, those of us who are passionate and motivated, we have a tendency to find and engage in shortcuts just so that we can get things started. We want to get there quick. We form the LLC or sole proprietorship or the S Corp, whatever it is. We open the business bank accounts and we start making websites, customized emails, business cards, and flyers. We start buying all the materials for the office, the paper clips, the stapler, the desk, a new computer. After all, it's tax deductible. Let's just go big. MacBook. Let's start a podcast. Okay, well, let's do it all. That's the fun part. But wait, where's the operating agreement? Where's the system of operation? Where's the policies and procedures manual? Where are all the HR documents that cover the legalities of hiring employees and or independent contractors? What's the exit strategy? Where is it written? What's your contingency plan if you or one of your partners passes away or becomes incapacitated? Where's all that? When people move too fast, they tend to miss vital details like that, and those things can later haunt you and, like I said, even sabotage or destroy what you're trying to accomplish. Second problem is this: when people move too slow. Wait, how is that a problem? At least they're not moving too fast, right? Not necessarily. Moving too slow can be just as destructive to your potential success. I knew a guy who was in love with this amazing woman. They both agreed to take it, slow. That's right. So they did. 5 years later, she's ready to move on into marriage, have kids and all that, but he didn't want to. He liked things just the way that they were. Too much risk. He was still taking it slow. She ended up leaving him behind and moving on. Now she's married with a bunch of kids. He was moving too slow for too long. Moving too slow isn't an issue until you've moved too slow for too long. He is in deep regret to this day. Why? Because he moved too slow. Moving too slow can cause you to miss great opportunities for both growth and success. People who move too slow are never quite ready. They're always preparing because it's got to be a foolproof and perfect plan absent of any major risk in order for significant action to take place. So they just keep moving along with sloth-like speed and eventually wonder why they have never even broken the tape at the end of the race. People move too fast, people move too slow, or, and this is the third and final problem, people don't move at all. There's a lot that can be said about people who never move. They never take the step. They never take the leap into the journey of success. So I will keep this short. There are these people who never move. They're the dreamers, the wishers, I wonder what would happen if people. They never venture to leave the shore or safety, but they spend most of their criticizing those of you who have. They complain, well, I would do this or do that if so-and-so hadn't have done this to me, or I can't afford to, or I knew someone who did that and it didn't work out for them. Look at him now. It's always excuse after excuse, an attempt to justify. To justify what? Great question. Let's talk about that. What are they justifying here? Well, let's get to it. There's one main question I ask people who move too fast, move too slow, or don't move at all. The question strikes at the very core of what's behind each and every one of these mistakes and excuses. And more often than not, the answer to this question will reveal the reason, the core reason for their error. The question is this: what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? Ask this question and you'll discover that they are running from someone or something, or they are running to someone or something. Scared people, they either run fast, they'll slowly move away from the danger, or they'll go straight deer in headlights and they won't move at all. For those moving too fast, they are running from someone or something. What is it? Who is it? Most people who are scared, they run fast. So what is it you're afraid of? For those moving too slow, what are you afraid of? What are you slowly trying to back away from? For those who aren't moving at all, you are terrified. Why? Why are you playing dead? Something is scaring all three of these folks. Maybe it's the fear of poverty, so they sprint without abandon towards success. They're running. Maybe it's the fear of missing an opportunity, so they run toward it as fast as they can. Maybe it's the fear of failure. If they don't try, then they can't fail, right? So they slowly back away. Maybe, and this is far more common than you might think, get this, it's the fear of actually succeeding. What if I do succeed, but then I do something wrong, or I miss something and it all comes crashing down on my head? Or what if I'm successful and then I can't sustain it? What if it blows up and it gets bigger than what I can handle? What if, I'm not really good enough or strong enough or smart enough to keep it going? What then? Fear. Fear can cause you to move too fast, move too slow, or go deer in headlights and not move at all. Moving too fast, too slow, or not at all are serious problems to your hopes, your dreams, and your goals. You must accelerate gradually. Listen, it's okay to move slowly sometimes. It's okay to move fast sometimes. It's even okay to be still sometimes, but you must learn to accelerate gradually and win. Remember the childhood story of the three bears? The porridge was too hot, was too cold, and then one was just right. You've got to discover the pace that is just right for the particular season you're in. Some people want to operate on cruise control. They don't want to do any work. They just want to cruise. They want to go the same speed all the time. But what happens when you're cruising at 70 on the highway? Then you come to a school zone or a stop sign. It won't work. And I know some pretty passionate men and women who would stop you and have something to say about that. So how do I know the right pace? How do I decide how fast or how slow to accelerate and to accelerate gradually? That's really the great question. The answer is going to sound too simple to you. It is, but it's the answer. How do I decide how fast or how slow to accelerate and how to accelerate gradually? The answer is this: use common sense with understanding. Use common sense with understanding. You either want to survive or you want to thrive. There's a big difference between surviving and thriving. Surviving isn't always easy, but it is simple. Use your common sense. Surviving is using common sense without understanding. Let me say it again. Surviving is using common sense without understanding. Now, I don't mean that these guys don't have any understanding, okay? I mean that they don't have the understanding that will take them from surviving financially to extraordinarily thriving financially. And hey, that's not important to everyone, and that's okay. But using common sense will typically ensure that you remain horizontal. And if mere survival is your goal, more power to you. If you aren't honing in and are passionate about having extraordinary financial success, then surviving is for you. Just use common sense and you'll be fine. Wake up, eat breakfast, get dressed for work, clock in, work hard, clock out, go home, eat dinner, shower, rinse, and repeat. I know many people who live this way, lots of guys. and they love it. They absolutely love it. And there's nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with it or inferior about it. Nothing. It's one way to live. But if you want extraordinary success, especially financially, there is a different process of operation, a different attitude. Surviving is common sense without understanding. But thriving, on the other hand, is common sense with understanding. Thriving is common sense with understanding. Now, the difference between financial success and great financial success is the addition of understanding. Well, what kind of understanding? What do I need to understand exactly? Great question. Here are 3 common things you must both be aware of and understand in order to know what pace to move and when. Number 1 is this. You must clearly know where you're going. You must clearly know where you're going. You must have goals. Goals must be as specific as possible. In other words, if I told you to meet me in Portland, Oregon, or what's left of it, that'd be fine. You agree, and so we agree to meet there. I pass the half-destroyed, graffitied, welcome to Portland sign, and I pull over, and I just sit there and wait for you. I'm here. Well, that's stupid. That's absurd. Where exactly in Portland are we going to meet? This absurd concept is no different than simply making general goals for yourself. You must be specific in your goal making. You must clearly know where you're going if you want extraordinary success. And by the way, your professional goals, they must always be based on your personal goals. In other words, your professional goals, if met, should also make a direct path to fulfilling your personal goals and desires for you and your family. Remember, your professional goals, the reason you work so hard is for the betterment of your family life, your wife's life, your kids' lives, and your life. It's why we work. Clearly know where you're going. Number 2 is this. You must clearly see where you have been in the past. You must clearly see where you have been. You have a past, so do I. It's imperative that we look back at our past, not for regret or guilt or to relive our mistakes, but to understand what worked and what didn't. History has a tendency to repeat itself, but history does not impose our past mistakes on us. But we are the ones who engage in those same pointless, destructive, and non-beneficial behaviors that rendered us pain, depression, anxiety, and failure in the first place. We must learn from our past and use the lessons taught to improve ourselves on the inside and on the outside. You must clearly know where you're going. You must clearly see where you've been. Absorb that wisdom. And finally, number 3 is this. You must clearly see where you currently are. You must clearly see where you are. And you must do so in a real and honest way. And because you and I are biased, either for ourselves or we're against ourselves, either way, we're biased. It's important to get the truth about who we are and what we have to offer in this journey to extraordinary success. You have to answer the tough questions. What am I capable of doing? What am I not capable of doing? What do I have to contribute to this whole process? What talents, what gifts, what tools, what am I missing in order to be more successful? Perhaps the most important of all the questions is this. What do I have available? What do I have available? Why? Because you can't give what you don't have. What do you mean, what do I have available? How do I know what I have available? This is another place where a deeper level of understanding and introspection comes into play. The process works this way. What does your family need? You want to make sure to give your family everything that they need before you give anything to your work or your business. Oh, wait, give my family everything that they need and then give my business what's left? Yes, but how can I succeed extraordinarily if I'm giving the business just what's left? Well, here's what I can tell you. If your family life suffers and your work life thrives, your entire life will run dry. Let me say it again. If your family life suffers and your work life thrives, your entire life will be run dry. Why? Because the richest place in your home will always be at home. The richest place in your life will always be at home. If you set this aside, you will regret it. The richest place will always be at your home. I'm talking about giving your business what's left, L.E.A.P. After you've given your family everything they need, they always come first, always. L.E.F.T, left. Learning. We talked about that in the last episode, learning continually. The E is energy. This is your passion, your motivation, your fuel for what you're doing. The F is finances. This is what accelerating gradually and wisely will cost you, the cost of actually doing business. And the T and left is time and money. It's a commodity you can spend, but you can't get back. So invest it wisely by participating in activities that benefit your work, both now and in the long run. Let me summarize this episode because I covered a lot and I covered it quickly. The 3 problems that can destroy your success. Number 1, the first problem is when you move too fast. The second problem is when you move too slow. And the third one is when you simply don't move at all. Why do we sometimes have one or more of these problems? To find out, we must ask ourselves that one powerful question and answer it honestly. What is that question? The question is this: what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? We also ask the question, how do I know the right pace? How do I decide how fast or how slow to accelerate and to accelerate gradually? Number 1, you must clearly know where you're going. You must clearly know where you're going. Those are the goals, specific goals. Number 2, you must clearly see where you've been. This will give you wisdom. And number 3, you must clearly see where you are. This is evaluation. Now, join me next time for the conclusion of our talk about performance, where I will talk about the P in LEAP. Don't miss it. Like, subscribe, share. You can check us out on Spotify, YouTube, wherever podcasts can be found. Also, check out my website, thegritman.com. I'll see you guys next time. Y'all stay gritty. Out.